Good afternoon and thanks for joining us. I'm Judy Simpson. Sexual violence is not a topic you'll normally see or hear about on Across the Fence, but across the world, the Me Too movement continues to demonstrate the prevalence of sexual assault and harassment, especially in the workplace. So today we want to share a story about a group of Vermont high school students. They've spent the past year working in their school, in their communities, to foster a culture of respect and empathy to end sexual violence. Rebecca Gollin tells us more from Champlain Valley Union High School.
Kids don't necessarily understand what sexual harassment is. They think it's black and white, rape or no, but there's so much more that goes into it, and it's...
Walter Braun is one of the founding members of the Student ACT Council at Champlain Valley Union High School in Hinesburg. The acronym stands for Awareness, Curriculum, and Training, and the goal is to educate and empower their peers about sexual violence, harassment, and inappropriate behavior. Braun's involvement started with a conversation with one of the school's counselors.
I saw a book on his desk that my mom was reading. We started talking about it, and it had to do with toxic masculinity and rape culture. And from there, we kind of guided a discussion around it and wanted to implement and initiate a sexual harassment and violence prevention program.
At around the same time, fellow CVU student Chiara Antonoli was taking a world history class that was making her think about what the real dangers to her personal safety are.
And we were studying the Middle East, and I kept getting really frustrated because a lot of the things we were talking about were terrorism and national security issues and how it's a huge issue in our country. But I was fixating and focusing on the fact that you have, I think, like a 1 in 8,000 or 8 million chance of being killed by a terrorist in the United States, whereas women in the United States have a 1 in 5 chance of being raped. And I just thought the difference in those statistics and the fact that we were learning about terrorism as this huge national security issue was really telling about the priorities of our country right now and who we're taught to be afraid of versus who we should be afraid of.
Chiara sent me an email last spring after we'd had a lengthy discussion about terrorism. Basically, she went home frustrated about the conversation. I don't know if she relayed any of this to you, but frustrated about that, and sent me this lengthy email. So I met with her, and the upshot of it was, I'm not really worried about terrorists. I'm worried about any male over the age of 12. And if you look at the statistics, it's absolutely true and horrifying. And it struck a chord in me just because we've all seen the stats and they're out there all over the place. We look at them every year at the beginning of the year as teachers, and nobody seems to do anything about it. So I took that information from Chiara and went to the principal and said, we got to do something. And so that's pretty much how it started.
The administration, led by social studies teacher Chris Smith and school counselor Tim Trevithick, among others, decided to start by listening to their students.
Last spring, Tim Trevithick and Chris Smith, who are two teachers/faculty here at CVU, asked Walter and I to put together a presentation for a faculty meeting that was in this past October.
That presentation, which focused on sexual harassment and violence, got the ball rolling for Antonoli and Braun, who then started the council in order to have a bigger impact on the CVU community. That's when other students started getting involved. Iris Mann was at the faculty presentation.
This needs to be talked about, and hearing it there in such a public way with all of our faculty members and watching their responses just kind of solidified that for me, as well as seeing the power and bravery that both Walter and Chiara had speaking on the issue. I wanted to kind of hopefully find my own power and find my own voice with that.
The students teamed up with local nonprofit Hope Works to receive training on recognizing and preventing sexual violence.
The trainings were absolutely incredible. Hope Works has been an amazing ally during all of this. I think the biggest thing that I took from it was the whole piece surrounding power and privilege, and that this isn't an issue that directly is unique to sexual violence, even though it is for sure the crux of it. It's harassment, bullying, any type of action that isn't okay on a core level has the same root within power and privilege. So that was really eye-opening for me to see.
coming out of it, you have such a better understanding of what people go through and how your decisions impact the world. And I think you can draw a parallel between sexual harassment and so many other things in the world, and that's just why being considerate and being like holding yourself accountable is important, and I think that's the biggest thing I took away.
Now, after that training, the group did a number of presentations, both here at CVU and at places around the community, such as a local Rotary Club. Part of the goal was to just get people talking about a topic they would probably rather not talk about.
I think CVU or any school is greatly a reflection of its community. So any time that we can reach out to the community and get to kind of the root of where things are coming from, the better. It's been really touching to see the support we've gotten, but it also shows where we as a society have holes and are uncomfortable talking about these things. So it's been as much a tool to hopefully better this culture, but also to just get information and feedback on how we can do that.
It's been an amazing shift in culture and awareness. I mean, that was probably the biggest change, is just getting people to talk about it. If you see, there are signs around the building now about it. They put up posters earlier in this year, and just having conversations around the issue, because it's one of those issues that nobody ever wants to talk about.
So the first thing we did was we put together a set of posters for the bathroom stalls that had statistics from the CDC and from our youth risk behavior survey that we took at CVU from 2015. And those had statistics about nationally what the chances are of women being raped and the chances of people in general being raped. And the CVU Youth Risk Behavior Survey results told us who had been sexually abused by a partner and who had been just abused in general by a partner. And we were able to share those statistics via some posters that we hung in the hallways and in the bathroom.
The students know that raising awareness about sexual violence and assault sounds different coming from them than it would from an adult. That's one reason why it's so important to them to be involved.
I think there's a lot of confusion surrounding really what sexual violence is. And it's not just rape. And that's kind of a misconception. So it's anything that violates you and doesn't feel right in a way. And I guess the biggest thing that I keep seeing come out of that is that if something's uncomfortable or just doesn't sit well with you, the answer is not, oh, this probably happens to other people, it's fine. It's, oh, this is happening to other people and we're not saying anything and it's not okay. It needs to stop. So kind of gaining that awareness and feeling less alone with your experiences, and also recognizing that you or anyone deserves better.
A lot of people look at me and see a male, right? And you don't necessarily think I'm the type of person to address this issue, but I have two older sisters who are both in college. I have younger cousins who are in middle school and high school, and I have a bunch of friends here who are either going to the workforce, military, or college next year. And sexual harassment is prevalent in almost every area of your life, high school, middle school, college, and it just gets worse. So I think it'd be cavalier and kind of irresponsible of me not to do anything.
I'd have to ask them how they think they can
As these
incorporate
seniors
this
wrap up
into
their
it, as
final
opposed to
weeks
going
here
and
at
telling them
CVU,
how to
they
incorporate
hope
it.
that the legacy they've started with the Student ACT Council remains strong.
What is it that you want your fellow students to know about this issue?
I just want people to feel comfortable with who they are and not to feel afraid of having relationships with other people. And I think that I want people especially to know that it's okay to say no, and I want them to practice saying no, even with small situations, even if they just don't want someone to hold their hand, or they don't want someone to hug them, or they feel uncomfortable with someone touching on their shoulder. Just being able to practice politely saying no and knowing that you have that power is really important for people to realize, and it helps you so much realize your self-value when you're in a situation that is dangerous, knowing that you can find help. And on the flip side of that, teaching people what is okay and what is not okay, and teaching people how to recognize when other people are uncomfortable if they're not brave enough to say it themselves that they're uncomfortable, realizing that the person you're with is not comfortable, and just learning how to respect each other and respect yourself.
I want my fellow students to be accountable. I want them to not only know the ins and outs, but I want them to be upstanders and not just stand by if anything were to happen. CVU is a really progressive community, and that's why it's such a perfect environment for this kind of topic to be brought up. And so for my fellow CVU students, I think now that they know that it's a problem and now that they've been informed, they're held accountable, and the decisions they make reflect them and reflect our school. So I just hope that they're making good decisions.
Learning and talking about a difficult topic in order to help their peers and community understand it. The Student Act Council at CVU is making a positive impact. In Heinsberg, I'm Rebecca Gollin with Across the Fence.
The CVU students are working on additional training for students and faculty for next year. One of those students, Chiara Antonoli, was recently honored as Vermont's Student Activist of the Year by the Center for Crime Victim Services. When it comes to farm safety, one of the most important messages is get a rollover protective structure, or ROPS. ROPS are standard equipment on modern tractors, but that's not the case with tractors manufactured before 1986. Here's retired Extension Farm Safety Specialist George Cook talking about the importance of rollover protection.
A ROPS is a rollover protective structure that is added to an older model tractor that will provide 99% effectiveness at eliminating, preventing serious injury or fatality in the event of an overturn. Rollovers on tractors are the #1 cause of farm fatalities. ROPS on a tractor can virtually eliminate the chance of serious injury or death in the event of an overturn, provided the person has their seatbelt on. That's got to be a part of the picture. A ROPS basically is a structure that is a U-shaped structure that's mounted on the tractor. So if the tractor rolled over, this is going to hit the ground, and it's going to hopefully keep the tractor from going all the way over 90 degrees or further. This tractor model has a foldable ROPS, so that when you're working in barns with low overhang, or in an orchard situation where you have trees with low limbs, you can fold it down temporarily, then put it back up to full protection. ROPS is mounted to the tractor frame itself, so it becomes an integral part of the tractor. Tractors made after 1986, there was a federal law that says they will have a ROPS with a seatbelt already installed. However, if you're buying a tractor that was made prior to 1986, it likely is not going to have a ROPS or seatbelt on it. Then you need to do some research and find out if there's a certified ROPS that's available for your particular tractor model. And the cost can vary from probably a low of $500 up to as high as $3,000 for a large tractor. Installation costs can vary depending on where you're able to get it done. Home installation obviously is the least expensive. We recommend taking it to a certified dealership, tractor dealership, or your mechanic. It could be anywhere from $200 to maybe $400 or $500 to have it commercially installed. My recommendation is, if you're buying a tractor, you can certainly consider a newer tractor post-86 that'll have the ROPS on it. If you're buying a used tractor, absolutely do your research and make sure that the tractor can be retrofitted with a ROPS if it does not have one installed. You call 1-877-ROPS-R4U, or you can go to the website ropsr4u.com. If you're looking at a tractor and it cannot be fitted with a ROPS, then I would recommend keep looking, find one that can be. Remember, ROPS on a tractor provide 99% effectiveness at preventing a serious injury or fatality in the event of an overturn.
And our thanks to George for his excellent advice. We know he's enjoying retirement and getting to spend some time with his grandchildren. That's our program for today. Thanks for joining us. I'm Judy Simpson. I'll see you again next time on Across the Fence.